Welcome to The Lounge, the Her Lounge that is, where we share laughter, life experiences, and heart-to-heart dialogue. I am Lynn.
I'm Jonah.
I'm Pauletta.
I'm Queasy. And we are
your four best new girlfriends.
Happy Thursday. Welcome to The Lounge. We are your four best new girlfriends. I am Lynn.
Jonah. I'm Pauletta.
And I'm Queasy. And here at The Lounge, we experience laughter, life experiences. We connect with you that way through laughter, life experiences, and heart-to-heart dialogue. So today, we're going to kind of continue a conversation that we had when we were in LaGrange, Georgia, you know, at D. Mosley's conference. So 4.0, I think. Hey, D.
Hey, D.
It was when we began to decipher emotional intelligence. Man, we were like, we really got to bring this to the podcast because, of course, we didn't get to get all the way through it. And it was just good information, good output, good responses from our audience. And I was like, okay, this is something we need to talk about. So that's what we're going to be doing on the podcast today. And y'all know Queasy is our resident statistician. So give us our stat girl. Give us our stats, our info, all of that good stuff that you do, Queasy.
Okay, I'm ready. Y'all, this is a really good conversation, and it was a lot of information out there, so I really just had to dwindle it down to a little bit. But let's just start off with what is emotional intelligence. National.org says that emotional intelligence is the ability to manage both your emotions and understand the emotions of those around you. There are 5 key elements to EI, emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. They talked a lot about emotional intelligence when it came to employment, okay? So emotional intelligence is responsible for 58% of job performance. 75% of Fortune 500 companies use emotional intelligence as a part of their training. According to Korn Ferry results, women are 86% more likely than men to be seen as consistently demonstrating emotional self-awareness as a competency. While it says 18.4% of women compared to just 9.9% of men. This is what really got me when I did research today. Emotional manipulation.
Because that's a real thing.
That's a real thing. And this is where they were talking about the downside of emotional intelligence. When we are able, this is per simplypsychology.org. When we are able to notice other people's feelings, we can tug at their heartstrings and motivate them to act against their own best interests. This represents the dark side.
That is so good. Okay.
Wasn't that good?
No, that's so good.
Right. And it talked more about manipulation and lack of creativity. So I'm just going to touch on a few of those. Manipulation is when someone is highly emotional intelligent and they can use the knowledge of emotions to manipulate and get their way. For example, they can appeal to someone's emotions to motivate them to do something that they shouldn't. Lack of creativity. People with high EI may be good at building relationships and working with others, but they may lack the creativity and innovation to change the status quo. So they were saying finding that balance of emotional intelligence and still having creativity. The last thing that I wanted to hit on is the neglecting logic. When someone focuses too much on emotional aspects of communication, they may neglect logical arguments and other transactional aspects. This makes it easier for people with bad intentions to be persuasive. So I felt like that was really good. Maybe we'll hit on that a little later, but it was some good information out there. So emotional intelligence is a huge market. It's a huge thing in our society, and a lot of it has to do with money. A lot of people it really does, because they say emotional intelligence influences how much money can come into a company, which is why they invest so much in training on emotional intelligence. So,
Oh wow, Pauletta, y'all know just as much as Queese is our resident
Statistician.
Pauletta is our resident counselor. So Pauletta, from a therapy standpoint, how does therapy help develop or regulate EI? And does EI improve your mental health? So give it to us from those two perspectives.
All right. Well, I'm gonna piggyback, and this will probably kind of answer the question. Queese mentioned some of the pillars, but she mentioned 5 pillars, but I'm only gonna focus really on 4. And that's self-awareness. And with self-awareness, it's the ability to recognize your own emotions. Okay. Yeah. And to understand how your emotions influence your actions.
right.
Then you have self-regulation, which is the ability to manage your emotions in a healthy way. All right. And adapt to changing circumstances. And then number 3 is empathy. And that's the ability to understand others' emotions and to offer comfort and support. And then the 4th one is social skills. And that's the ability to build and maintain relationships and have effective communication. I think it's important when you're going to therapy, one of the things that they talk about is the maladaptive behaviors that you have based on your trauma. So, a maladaptive behavior would be building a wall, like you have a wall up, and so when you're in therapy and you're talking about EI is going to help you to, 1, deconstruct the wall and be able to allow people in. That's the ability of recognizing your own emotions and understanding that if the emotion is for me to be hard and block people out or whatever, like that's going to affect, who I interact with, how I interact with them, because a lot of people are married with walls.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know I was.
And so,
Truth.
To me,
the
presence of a wall is the lack of emotional intelligence. Wow.
So you're saying if somebody has a wall up, it's a lack of emotional intelligence?
There's a lack, not, and I know people are like, I'm not stupid. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But I'm saying that.
That's what I was about to say.
It's not
about to be like,
it's
what
not
you trying to say?
intellect. It's not intellect. It's not intellect. It's emotional intelligence. So you have some people, who have a wall and know that they have a wall. So, you're fully aware, but at the same time, what are you doing to deconstruct that wall? You know what I'm saying?
So do you believe, let me ask you this just before you go to the next one. So if somebody, clearly I could see that I'm the wall lady because I done got all caught up in the wall. But if you have a wall up and you saying there's a lack of emotional intelligence and you're saying that you're not doing what needs to be done to deconstruct, are you the one that needs to deconstruct it, or does other people have the ability to aid you in it, or can somebody deconstruct? And I'm saying that to say, and this is a whole nother thing, but I'm going to plug this in because this is why I'm saying this. Because when we were talking about dating at the singles conference, and I was talking about at each age in your life, you need different things. Not only do you need different things at different ages. What I need in my 20s, I didn't need in my my 30s. What I need in my 30s, I doggone sure don't need in my 40s, about to knock on the door to 50. I don't need that. Right. My needs have changed. And I was like, when I was in my 20s, it was spontaneity, it was love. And now my primary need is safety.
Come on.
Wow. That's my primary need. And that's my primary need, I think, because it is the thing that keeps me from building a wall with a person or keeping a wall, So that's why I'm saying,
okay, I see what you're saying.
Can somebody else? And I mean, that may be in 2 different sets, emotional intelligence
because,
versus, dating or whatever. But I'm just asking.
I believe whoever God sends you, they have the ability to minister to that little girl, and whoever God sends to you, you have the ability to minister to the little boy in them, and I think that's what makes you a perfect match. I think that sometimes people fall in love and they have great intentions, but there's still that little girl in me that needs to be addressed. And if you don't address her, then she's going to raise her head up and she's going to run the marriage. But if I have someone who can minister to that little girl and love that little girl, and I can love the little boy in him, then that's going to create a whole other dynamic in our marriage, But again, understanding the fact that you even have a little girl is a level of emotional intelligence.
Right.
Because I know that she raises her head up every now and then. And I would be foolish to think that's not who she is. Like, I can point around and be like, there she go right there. That's her. Yeah. Now I have one or two options. I can allow her to reign, or I have the ability to pull her back. Yeah. And that's that self-regulation. So self-regulation isn't so much just popping off or whatever like that. Self-regulation is realizing, hey, there go that little girl who felt abandoned, and she's in a situation, and it's triggering those abandonment feelings. Let me reel it back in, because that's not this. This is something else. So that would be an example of emotional regulation. So I think therapy is to really fully understand and to be able to fully have a I don't want to say a high level, but a level of emotional intelligence. I definitely think you need therapy, and it's going to help with your mental health, because think about on your job. Oh, I don't know, maybe because we've all have different issues, but I mean, not like y'all got issues, but
qualifying.
There are
we all got issues.
I'm just saying there have been times on my job where I felt overlooked.
Yes.
Okay.
And that feeling of overlooked and I'm feeling to go down a rabbit hole. That feeling of overlooked will take me to being overlooked to have a mate.
Aww.
Okay?
Because that one overlooked opens the door for every other overlook that I'm dealing with.
And then
like
it just starts.
Generalization.
Right.
That's good.
You
That's
understand?
so good.
So in order for me not to spiral, I have to grab a hold of it and be like, Paul, these are almost compartmentalized, and be like, this is this.
Okay.
This is not this. But again, that's emotional intelligence. So if you don't have the ability to do that, then you will find yourself playing the victim.
Yeah.
And always walk around with that
Every
victim
situation.
mindset in every situation, thinking that, they're out to get me, when in all actuality, you're just not aware of your emotions, and also being aware of your triggers as well. If that makes sense.
Jenna, do you think there's a difference between emotional intelligence and emotional maturity?
Yes, I think there's a difference between the two, based on what Pauletta was talking about just now, about how being able to compartmentalize, that the feelings of being overlooked, right? She mentioned that in her position, when she's felt overlooked, if she's not careful, she'll take that feeling of overlook and it'll spill over into other areas, right? But let's take it a step further. That's the ability to not do that is emotional intelligence. But then let's take it a step further and say, okay, so how do I respond to this when this comes up? Yeah. Now I'm able to recognize it, right? But now, how do I respond to it? How do I make sure that I am not that being overlooked? Yes, but that still, those feelings still deserve a response.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
not just moving from me being able to just compartmentalize it and say, okay, this is this, this is not that. But because this is this, how am I going to respond to it? What do I do? How do I deal with it? Because feeling overlooked in your job is a real thing. Feeling taken for granted is a real thing. Feelings of being used and misused. Yes. Those are real feelings. Yeah. Those and some of it is warranted, right? What you feel and how you feel about it is warranted. The question is, what do you do about it?
That's the maturity.
That's the maturity. Because if I don't respond to it, if I just say, I ain't gonna worry about it, that's not an appropriate response.
Okay.
Yeah, June. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's not an appropriate response. What I have to do is because what I know for sure about a lack of emotional maturity, people who lack emotional maturity run from confrontation.
Say that again.
People who lack emotional maturity run from confrontation. Because they view it as a negative.
Yeah.
When reality is, confrontation is just making sure that we both have an understanding of where we both stand.
Right.
That's good.
It's not, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be volatile, right?
Yes.
It's just, I feel, back to the example, I feel overlooked. So what do I need to do? What am I going to do about it?
Right.
What am I going to do about it? What I'm not going to do is go off, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Because I haven't given the person who is overlooking me the opportunity to understand how I feel.
Yeah.
So a conversation is warranted, right?
Right.
So let's have let me organize my thoughts, because I know I have a tendency to go off and get frustrated.
Me too,
and get in my
Julia.
bag and stuff. So and now you done took me down this rabbit hole with you, right? So because it's a great example. Mm-hmm. It's a great example for us to expound on. But my emotional maturity says, okay, so let me organize my thoughts so that I can deal with these feelings. Now, granted, if I also have to be ready in me sharing my feelings about it, sharing my response to what I am feeling, I also have to be prepared for there to not be agreement.
Okay. Which is emotional maturity.
Right, which is emotional maturity.
That's good.
How all of it plays a role in, because if I have to respond, and I have to respond appropriately.
That's good.
That's the piece of emotional maturity. And I also, even when I recognize it, even my ability to recognize what others are feeling and emotional maturity, emotional intelligence in others. Back to what Kwesi was saying, people who manipulate emotion, do not have any level of emotional maturity.
That's good.
That's really good.
They lack
That's a great
emotional
way to bring it
maturity.
together.
Because the operative word here is appropriate. Responding appropriately to the emotion.
That's good. Whew. You know, as a leader, you know, I have to have a balance, you know, leading people and having a balance of like, is it too much emotional intelligence? You know what I'm saying? Versus it needs to be confrontation.
Right.
Like, you know, I have to be very careful. And it's funny that we're talking about this because earlier today, because as a leader, one thing I do is I have consistent heart checks.
Yeah.
I check my heart, even towards people. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And it's not as a leader that I have favorite people, because I really don't have favorite people. Right. I just have people that are easier to lead. And because they're easier to lead, you gravitate more towards them.
Sense.
Because there's people that are difficult to lead because they lack emotional intelligence. Because not only is it great that I, as a leader, recognize the emotions of the people I lead, but it's also important that the people I lead recognize that I too have emotions.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times we talk about things like church hurt. And I'm like, listen to me. Let me tell you something. Ain't nobody in the church been hurt more than a real pastor. I'm not talking about a fake pastor. I'm not talking about a phony pastor. I'm not talking about a pastor that's living one way and preaching another. I'm talking about a pastor who really loves the people and really at the core of their heart want to see the people succeed. And the part of a real pastor is their joy is seeing the people they lead reach their God-given potential. Yeah. Okay? And when you are up under a sincere leader, I can't speak for no other kind of leader because I don't identify with that. no other person in church is more hurt, more damaged than a pastor. Hear me. I'm telling you what I know. We had to tuck our tails all the time because the very people you prayed through, sold into, stuck by, they will walk out and act like you've done nothing for them. Or if you've always told them yes and you one time tell them no, they will act like you've never done. Or if you ever had to correct them. Yeah. See, if you want to know the heart of a person, correct them. Mm-hmm. How a person moves through correction really reveals their heart. So I'm saying that to say, as a leader, yes, and I'm saying that, what I was saying before I said all that was, earlier today in my heart check, I was like, is there any decision that I've made concerning people that I regret? I was really thinking about that today. Like, has it been situations that I was maybe felt like I was too hard? I really evaluate that. You know what I'm saying? Because if I don't, I won't learn. And I was just like, I don't know. Because I really try to approach every situation with emotional intelligence and emotional maturity as a combination. As a leader, you cannot lead without the balance of content of them both.
Yes.
Right? Especially a woman in leadership, because we are emotional. Right?
So true.
And a lot of times when we lead stuff, it's messy. If it's we over a department, it's messy. Or we don't know how to talk to folks. You know what I mean? Because we lead according to how we feel instead of walking into the door and laying down everything you got going on with you personally and putting your game face on and leading people. Yes. That's emotional maturity in leadership. Emotional maturity is, I could have just walked out of a fire, but I just got a fire extinguisher, got the fire off me, spray something to help with the smoke, and I walk in the building with my game face on. That's emotional maturity because God is depending on me to show up every time and lead as if it was him leading. When we wear the big "What Jesus Do" t-shirts. Don't what he do in one situation. What he do in all situations. What about when you lead somebody you don't like? What about when you lead somebody that get on your cotton picking nerves? I can't tell you how many times I have said, Lord,
you lead a 99
I have
and
said,
go get
Lord, I can lose them. I can. I promise you I have. I can lose them. I'm tired. It's too much toil. But I will come in the room with every intent to say, hey, you go. But because of my pastoral heart, because this is the heart of a pastor, you can be angry, but once you get into the room with somebody, that tenderness,
that's
that a pastor,
that's the shepherd. You lead a 99 and go find the one.
I'm telling you, and I tell everybody, and I don't mean to be preachy, but I have to speak from my own experience, and then we're going to go to break. There's a fivefold ministry, the gifts that he gave: apostle, prophet, pastor, teacher, evangelist. Every last one of them can operate and walk. But a pastor. A pastor is called to go through with you. A pastor has the ability to see what you can be, and they have to walk you through to it. Though. An evangelist can come and set the place on fire and lay hands and walk out the building. A teacher can come and teach and make you think and give you revelation and walk out of the building. An apostle can come and build, set up, put somebody in place, unless they're pastoring as well, and they can keep on moving. You know, a prophet can come in, prophesy, boom, and walk out the building. But that pastor is the one that's called to labor with you. And it's the only one that has the scripture that says, and I will give you personal pronoun, a pastor. That's the only fivefold ministry gift that has that kind of scripture, which tells you each individual needs a pastor. Which also tells you what a pastor is supposed to do. A pastor is leading you into the purpose that they know that you can be. So it's not easy, because a lot of times as a leader in anything, You have to put your emotions on the back burner about
Yeah,
people.
that's true.
And you have to see people through the eyes of God, not your own eyes. Because through your eyes, they get on your nerves.
Yeah.
They get on your nerves,
Yes,
and you be
Lord.
tired. You be like, I'm tired now. I'm tired.
Man, my
Then you
food.
start praying them, let them go, Lord. Take them prayers. And I have taken them.
Take
I
'em
have prayed
prayers.
theirs. Not take them to the
I
sweet
know what
by and
you
by,
mean.
but take them on
Let 'em
somewhere.
find
Take them
somewhere.
prayers.
And every time he
lot of
does it,
churches, yeah.
and I don't be mad. I know they think I'm mad. I'm not mad. I prayed this, and he answered. No, I'm not trying to be
And I
funny,
thank him.
because some people, I've learned something. Everybody that's a member, you're not their pastor.
Right. So true.
Okay? You're not. Just because they're a member or a partner doesn't mean you're their pastor. Just because somebody is in your team at work doesn't mean you're their manager.
Right.
Right? Just because somebody's on your downline don't mean you're their director. Just because somebody's position is under you don't mean you're their CEO. You are to them whatever they allow you to be to them. Okay? And I'm not that until you let me be it.
Ooh.
I'm not that until you call me that. I'm not that until you honor me as that. I'm not that until you can receive from me as that.
Wow.
Right? So, yeah, that's my answer. Good time to take a break. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
I used to love Welcome Back, Carter. Ooh, I
Me
used to
too.
love. That was my
Me
show.
too. Me too. So you guys already know we've been talking about EI, emotional intelligence. So we're just going to have just a discussion on this second part where everybody just jump in. But does the difference in the level of EI in women and men affect our ability to communicate effectively? Queasy gave us some stats about the percentages. Of course, emotional intelligence in women was higher than men.
Yeah.
Do you think that has anything to do with our ability to communicate?
I do.
Yeah.
Why?
I do. I know it's what is it? A cliche or whatever it is to say that women are from, what is it?
Mars and men are from Venus.
But even no matter how much, I can only use my
Or is it
own
men
experiences.
are from Mars, women are from Venus? I don't know. It's one of them.
One of them.
It's Mars and Venus.
Mars and Venus. As much as I love my husband, like I think my love for him continues to grow, we just communicate differently. Like it is, and I've learned after being with him for so long, and sometimes he's really not trying not to understand me. He just they don't have the same, just something as simple as planning. I'm an over communicator. So that's not just a relationship, that's with people, period. I might get on people's nerves because I don't ever want you to expect me to do something. I want you to know what I plan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna over communicate that to you so you will know that. Well, over communicators can get on people's nerves who are not communicators. You know, I'm saying it can aggravate them because they like, I get it, but then when the day comes, they like, you told me that. No, see, that bothers me because I know that I took my time to communicate what was going on. So I do feel like that there's a communication barrier, and sometimes we are emotionally charged, and it's not always positive. You know, it's not always a good thing because I can find myself in a lot of situations where my emotions lead me and I make the wrong decision. And when I sit back and think about it, I didn't have to do all that. It really didn't require.
All that
And that's
you
where the
did.
emotional maturity comes in,
Right,
because I was
right.
just listening to Juna earlier and I was just thinking about myself. I remember applying to be a manager years ago, and then I felt overlooked because I didn't get the position. But now I'm grateful because I wasn't mature enough, because first of all, I had to find my voice. I didn't know that
That
it was
is
okay
so
to
good.
communicate that I didn't like something or that it didn't go my way. But then the next journey I went through was overly wanting to combat everything because I felt run over for so long. So now I got my voice. Now I want to be overly confrontational. But the emotional maturity comes where you learn it don't take out. You know what I'm saying? I can effectively communicate that. And I don't want to switch gears because I know we're talking about men versus women, but I believe that this even relates to church. You know, I remember one of the things that Juna, you brought up before was suppression. That's not a good thing.
Oh,
and
no.
that's something that I dealt with because I thought suppressing was making things easier for everybody else, but I was dying on the inside, right? So that's what we're taught in church, and finding that you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to question God, you're not supposed to, do all that stuff. Well, I hear what you're saying, but I am literally coming apart because I don't know how to communicate what I'm feeling, how I'm feeling, and to be honest with people, because a lot of people found me hard to receive from because they thought I was perfect, right? Wow. Because really? I presented like I had it all together, right? Because that's what I was taught. You ain't supposed to show nobody your flaw. Right. You're not supposed, but we're in a season now where people want real. They want to be able to connect with you and understand, hey, not only am I going through, have you been through something? Can you tell me something to give me hope that I can come through this? So I feel like we don't even recognize that the scripture shows us instances where people had emotion, right? Yeah. They wouldn't mention it if it wasn't important. So it's important to be able to explain to people. One of my pet peeves I was thinking about today is crying while I sing. I hate to cry while I sing because it's a level of vulnerability that I've never really been comfortable with, right? Because I feel like, I'm supposed to minister and get them through this. I can't do that. But I found that I'm able to touch people more when I'm real with them.
What I'm giving you touching me.
It's touching me. It's got to sit with me first. And that's one of the things that I feel like emotional maturity for me has been in my music journey. I'm going to end it right here for me. I can't sing everything I just hear on the radio. Right? And a lot of people will request me to do, this or what's popular. If it hasn't set with me, music is a journey for me. So there is no way for me to effectively communicate that to you if I haven't been able to go on that journey and it's taught to me. And I've seen myself fall flat on my face trying to minister something that I haven't connected with. So I feel like the emotional maturity has been sometimes telling, places I go minister, hey, that ain't, you can find somebody else, maybe they can minister that for you. But that's not, that's not for me. That's not the way, that's not for me. So I feel like there is a barrier with the men and women. Do I feel like one of the things I feel like will help that is counseling? To help us be able to communicate together and be able to say, hey, I see that you have a different point of view. How can we reason together? How can we agree to disagree? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay to have different point of views because I'm a total different person, come from a total different background. Right. But how can we grow together? Right. How can we compromise? How can we find our way through that? So I feel like those were the long-lasting relationships come when we work through with therapy and stuff like that.
But you know what? If I've seen, I could say I can count on my hand about 5 couples who they struggle with emotional intelligence, and it was in the area of communication. And so he was just listening to respond. So he heard everything she was saying, but it wasn't penetrating because he was just waiting for her to take a rest so that he could respond to what she was saying. So he never really heard. He heard enough to just respond. Right. So, if anything else she said, he missed that because he heard something. I'm gonna respond to that, whatever else you said after that. Right. And so one of the things that we have to do, that I tell them to do, is when you are having a conversation or a heated conversation, pause and say, do you understand what I'm saying? Can you tell me what I just said?
That's good.
Which forces him to have to, or her to have to say, well, this is what I heard you say. And then you have to deal with what lens are they listening through? Because if I'm listening,
emotional maturity.
Exactly. If I'm listening through a trauma lens, then all I'm hearing is you're talking to that trauma, which is triggering me.
That's good, Paula.
Which is, that emotional truth that I can hear, that I'm not listening through. I'm listening through a clear lens It's not foggy or anything. And so it's so important when you're talking about, communication. Like, emotional intelligence helps with communication because, one, it allows you not to listen to respond. It allows you to even sit in the emotions of the other person.
That's good, Pauletta.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So now when we're talking, I'm trying to feel what it is that you're saying, and you're trying to feel what I'm saying. Right. And so if that's the vibe that
Isn't
we're on.
Isn't that empathy?
Yeah, that's empathy.
Do you know what I've heard people say? I've heard somebody say that empathy is a sin.
Really?
Yeah, that blew me away.
Why did?
And it was somebody I know, and they this on Facebook. They reposted a post, and the post was by, I guess, a prophet or whatever, and they were saying that empathy was a sin, that you feeling as somebody feels was a sin. I'm serious. Like, it could be a sin.
But Jesus is empathetic towards us.
I'm telling you what was said.
I know, but I'm just
saying.
Sorry.
There you go.
Who?
I love it.
Which I know, but when I saw it, I was like, sometimes we could try to be so deep until we get over into stuff that God ain't even thinking about.
Right, like,
I really believe God be like, you know what? That ain't even no big deal to me. We make a big deal out of stuff that I don't think is a big deal with God.
Right.
I think God is more on love.
Yes.
Me,
do what I told you to do.
With a pure heart, love people with a pure heart. Make sure the intent and purposes of your heart are pure. Make sure that you spend time with me. Make sure you obey me. I think those are the three pillars that God really care about. Yeah. Is our love walk, our love walk, the condition of our heart, which is a direct reflection of our love walk, and our obedience. Yeah. And I'm not saying you don't care about nothing else, but I think those are the three central things.
Mm-hmm. And worry about yourself.
Yes. Manage you. If you manage your heart, you managing you.
But that's emotional intelligence. Yeah. Managing your emotions.
Your emotions.
Then Juna was talking about the difference between emotional intelligence and emotional maturity. And, emotional intelligence can help me identify that I feel negatively about something. Right. And so how can EI help me identify that I feel negative, but also help me not respond negatively to what I felt?
Right.
Or is that in between the maturity and the?
It's the same way when we were talking. When we were talking the other day, and I was saying how when you're spiraling, that I need to call and book a session with my therapist. That is awareness of one's own emotions, and so maturity says, "Let me make a phone call." Okay, immaturity is I'm just going to spaz out.
So is EI, so if we were to make the simplest definition for EI, is it emotional awareness of my own emotions as well as others?
Mm-hmm. That's it, essentially.
So in a high emotional atmosphere, if I'm with my mate and we having an argument and we both feel passionately about something, but we can't really hear each other, because our emotions are so high.
Right.
Okay, let's say, for instance, we're a couple, we have a child. My mate believes this child should be raised a certain way. I believe this child should be. Right. And we're passionate about it. Yes. How in that emotionally heightened situation can we as a couple, and I'm not talking about me, how we as a couple can respect each other's emotional intelligence or be aware of what the other person is feeling without damaging the emotions of the other person?
Somebody got to die.
Yeah. But that also
for real.
No. Somebody has to die in an emotionally charged situation. Somebody has to say, okay, what we're doing, how we're coming at each other isn't
Not
working.
working, not effective.
So let's both go to our separate corners and regroup, and let's think about what the goal is, right? So
That's good. What the goal
what is the goal?
What's
And
the
let's-
end result?
Because the thing about the truth about what you're saying about the example that you gave about the couple fussing about the child and a rearing of the child, the truth of the matter is that there is a common goal. And
The
that's
best interest of the child.
the best interest of the child. That is the common goal.
Right.
Now, how we get there, knowing that this child has a mother and a father,
Right.
With two different viewpoints.
with two different
Totally.
viewpoints, there has to be some conversation about where we come back and we recollect. There
And
has
I think as couples too, we need to understand when it won't be solved today.
it won't be
Yeah.
right,
And being okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it is
That's
okay.
when emotional maturity
Right.
kicks in.
And it is
To
okay.
say we both are emotional.
Right.
Let's table this.
And,
Let's
and
table it.
we're really not even listening to each other. And it's not necessary that we solve it today.
It ain't. Right.
Let's go back and try to really see
Right.
what the other person is saying.
But I was gonna say, but see, and that's why it's so important to have premarital counseling, because I'm just saying that would have came up in premarital counseling.
But
And
I'm
so
saying,
what the-
even if you do talk about how you want to raise children, every little thing you're not going to discuss.
Right, but I'm
Right.
saying
And
like
something may come up, like something simple as, I think, and I'm just using RJ.
Yeah.
He should have a cell phone. He 12.
Right.
And then his daddy like, no, you don't need no. I mean, you ain't talk about cell
right,
phone.
I know,
in
but what I
marriage
was saying, but
counseling.
what I was gonna say is that in premarital counseling, if let's take the whole rearing of children and they're on polar opposites, then there's a cause. The reason why I want to raise RJ this
The
way
why.
is because of the way that I was raised,
The why.
of what I've experienced, and that's the same with him. So now what we need to deal with is the why, and once we deal with the why, you're gonna find yourselves being able to come together.
Amen.
Because a lot of times it's the why that causes. Why are you looking like that?
Because she said, amen.
It's the why that causes so much strife and conflict.
Yeah.
It's not the issue. It's very rarely is it the issue. It's always the why. Why I
why.
feel this way about the issue. So it's not the issue. But I understand what you're saying, that you're not going to talk about a cell phone, like the major things you would talk about in premarital counseling. But yeah, that to me, that's what it is.
And I'll say too that the same way it's important to clean your filters in your house, as far as your air conditioning filters and your stuff, to make sure you can get no stuff.
that done
You
today.
got to
Got
clean
that
your
done today.
filter as far as how communication, how you filter what communication. You got to clean it, because it's like Pauletta was saying earlier. You're listening from a specific lens,
Right.
That's good.
which can be convoluted. You know what I mean? It corrupt even. But so we gotta clean it. You
Yes.
know.
So
And
true.
And because if we don't clean our filters and clean our filter and how we filter communication and what's being spoken and how we hear and what we listen, how we process. When we don't do that, it puts us in a place where we will never get what we're trying to get done accomplished.
Right.
What is the goal? Ain't nobody talking just to be talking. Nobody's ever talking. Now wait a minute, I take that back, because some people be talking.
Folks love to hear
Some people
themselves.
love to be the talk.
Love
But in situations, in relationships, you know what I mean? Especially when there are children involved, it's usually what's the goal? And let's communicate and filter our communication through that.
That's good.
What is the goal? And I'll tell you, even in in organizations, you still need to filter communication with the goal in mind. Because if I'm filtering through the lens of me just being the boss, I'm the boss, I'm in charge, y'all do what I say. This 2024, the people ain't.
You hear me?
I ain't operating like that.
Even with pastors, ain't nobody gonna sit up and let you talk to them no any kind of way. Them days is over.
It's over. That
Them
abusive
days-
leadership.
Yeah.
Them
That
days
abusive
is
leadership.
Over.
Uh-huh.
It's over. And the reality is, now the Bible said, let your word be seasoned with grace, so you know how to answer every man. So you don't be talking to people, See, I might not filter my communication because my little girl rose up just then. But the point.
Sit yourself down.
Right. But the point is to make sure that even in our communication, even with the truth of what we are experiencing, the feelings that we have, that we operate and we're discussing with the goal. What is the end goal? What is our intent? And I think and
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I think that's so important in relationships. Any relationship. I mean, romantic. I mean, friendship, leadership, professional. We both, even if I'm the leader and you're the person I'm leading, we both should still have a common goal.
Right. Yeah.
And our goal should be to see you reach your highest potential. Right. So how can we do that? Even if right now at this point in time, we don't like each other.
Right.
For whatever reason, or we may feel like you didn't respect my emotions. You know what I'm saying? Or what I'm feeling, or, that's why communication is so powerful. Communication removes the need to have a perspective that's not rooted in truth.
Yep.
Because people
had a conversation.
Communication, effective communication, removes the need to have a perspective that's not rooted in truth. Because perspectives is somebody's truth.
Yes.
All right? And people will think, oh, you mean, you this, you that. And I noticed this. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and we're going to end in a minute. But I was talking to somebody earlier today about somebody who made the statement that I changed. Now, this is somebody who I've never, ever had any kind of personal interaction with. How you know I changed? No, I haven't changed. But the problem is you just got an opportunity to experience me.
Wow.
And what you experienced with me is different from what they said about me.
Yep.
So in your head, you like, she different. No, I'm not different. The problem is your perspective was built on conversation and not communication. Wow. You had never communicated or communed with me. Right. So all you had was a perspective that was not rooted in truth. Right. Then when you experienced me, have y'all ever been somewhere and somebody, when they experience you, and they be sitting there saying,
there's nothing like I thought.
Like they said. I see it. I see the scales falling off while I'm standing before you.
Not the scales.
Because the problem is you don't know me.
Right.
All you know me
is
through the conversation of somebody else's perspective of me.
That's good.
And so now when you experience me, I'm not different. You just really experience me. Communication is essential.
It is.
In any kind of relationship. Friendship, mother to child, the days of, not only the days of abusive leadership, the days of do what I said do because I told you to is even gone. Because these kids have access to everything. And you're going to have to give them the why with the what. You can't just give them the what no more. You got to give them the why. Because they are too intelligent. The Bible says every generation is weaker but wiser. Which means they know more but can't take as much. So you have to be very careful of your communication across the board. And emotional intelligence also gives you the ability to effectively communicate to different people, different sex, different rooms. I know what I can say to this one, I can't say to that one. There are certain leaders that I lead. Some of them I don't have to pray for. I start to meet. I can just start because I know they tough like Pauletta. They can take it. But then there's others I got to come in and I got to pray and I got to evoke the Spirit, the Holy Ghost to come in because I know that you sensitive. And I got to be so careful about the way that I say something. Others, I got to be in consecration before I meet with you because you always think everybody against you. I'm telling you, but that's emotional intelligence. I understand where the level of their emotions are. And if I'm going to be an effective leader, I can't handle them like I handle her because their emotions are not there. You understand what I'm saying? So even as a leader, you have to know how to switch.
Yeah.
For each person that you're leading, because you have to lead them differently. You can't just group everybody, just like your kids.
Yeah.
If you got multiple kids, you can't parent them the same. You know what I'm saying? Because each child hears you differently
And experience.
and experience you differently. I'm talking about the same children in the same house.
Same house.
They may have some similarities of you, but they all experience you as a parent a different way.
Different ways.
All
So
right, y'all.
true.
I think this was good.
Yeah,
We're going
too.
to
Really
continue the conversation after the conversation. Juna, what's our question of the week?
How has your opinion shaped your emotional response?
How has your opinion
Shaped your
wow,
emotional response.
your emotional response? All right, guys. We love you. See you next time in the lounge.
Peace.